Welcome to the Vault Excel. Thank you for joining me. Hope you all are well. Hope you all are staying cool and hydrated. Remember to put on your sunscreen, visors, floppy hats, whatever it is to keep you cool. And please drink plenty of water and fluids. Amen. Congratulations to the UT Vols baseball team. They have advanced to the CWS National Championship, and they are the current winner. Amen. To the Knoxville UT baseball team, college baseball team. And also in the queue, I've shared Peyton Manning speaking pertaining to the CWS National Championship. And also, I'd like to congratulate a young man by the name of Emmanuel Bynum. He is a UT runner and he has made it to the semifinals in the Olympic track and field trials. Emmanuel Bynum. Congratulations. Now I'm going to get you some information coming out of Knoxville, Tennessee, pertaining to three hood rats that unalived a young lady here. She brought forward allegations of sexual assault against a Mr. Osborne, and he went and got some of his comrades to unalive this young lady. And also, two other people were shot in the home where she was found deceased. Don't have much information on those two people, but I do know this is a very wacky, crazy case of violence that didn't need to take place, but it is what it is. I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of what happened in court on Friday. One second, everybody. Danishka Melina Sabaha Mieha is the victim who was unalived by these three black males, and also Mr. Osborne, the ringleader. His mother was arrested for accessory after the fact. He's a known gang member here in Knoxville, Tennessee, or he affiliates himself with the Gangster Disciples gang. I'm assuming these other two may be in the gang. I'm not sure. Don't really care. It's still utter nonsense to unalive this young lady. And if you go to her Facebook page, if it's still up, they were Facebook friends. So what actually happened at the address where she was assaulted? Because we're talking about two different addresses. One where she was assaulted and one where she was unalived. I believe she was unalived at her home in South Knoxville. And the place where she was assaulted, I believe, belonged to Mr. Osborne, if I'm not mistaken. I'll stand corrected on that information. I'm having problems uploading this content, so I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of the information. The question of potential punishment for three Knoxville men accused in the brutal April attack and murder of a woman in the South Knoxville home remained unclear Friday as the defendants appeared in court. The state is still mulling its evidence with more to come, attorneys said. The family of victim Danishka Melina Sabaha Mieha also can weigh in on whether they'd like the jury to consider voting for the death or life without parole if Latwan Osborne, Marquise Ellis, and Edward Wilson are convicted at trial. If the state wants to seek what's called enhanced punishment against any of the men, it has to file formal notice. Osborne, Ellis, and Wilson are all accused of first-degree murder, aggravated rape, in addition to several other charges in the case. So they also are accused of the aggravated rape. So now you got to ask that question. The obvious. All three men assaulted her at a said house. Is that what they're claiming? Because here it says we're all accused of first-degree murder and aggravated rape, in addition to several other charges. Without such a notice, they face decades in prison if convicted at trial, but still might have a chance to get out. So will they turn on Mr. Osborne, the other two? The last photo I saw, all of them were in court sitting at the same table with their defense attorneys, and it looks like Mr. Greg Isaacs, our famous defense attorney here in Knoxville, was sitting at the table, and I'm thinking, damn, you have to be on board with this, but it is what it is. That is his profession. Will the state seek the death penalty for all three men in the murder, first-degree murder, and aggravated rape of Miss Danishka? Does the family want the death penalty? That's another question. Once again, the three suspects, if you're curious. LaTwain Osborne, he's been deemed the ringleader. Marquise Ellis and Edward Wilson. Now, these two guys are younger than Mr. Osborne. Mr. Osborne's about 37, 38, somewhere in there. And he is obviously a menace. He is definitely a menace. They appeared in court, criminal court, and they're set to go back for another hearing August 27th. They appeared in court last Friday. Angela Greenberg is accused of being an accessory in a crime. She is facing charges of tampering with evidence, accessory after the fact, and this is Mr. Osborne's mother. Miaha's family attended the Friday hearing, the first time seeing the defendants in court. Very interesting. Recent court filings indicate some of the evidence the state has gathered so far. What do they have so far? State also is monitoring Osborne's phone conversations from jail. He has made and continues to make recorded statements while in jail. So exactly what is he saying in his jailhouse conversations? Who is he talking to? Who's on the visitors list? All that's going to be relevant in the end. Veteran defense attorney Josh Hedrick represents Osborne right now. If the state files notice, a second attorney would join him to help represent the defendant. That's local news coming out of Knoxville, Tennessee. Thank you so very much for that. Once again, congratulations to the UT baseball team, the Vols. They have won their baseball championship. Amen. Amen. All right. WikiLeaks, subject number 1. Mr. Julian Assange has made a plea deal with the United States government, and they have decided to grant him freedom. Good morning, America is the source. Thank you for joining me. Hello, Maria. Thank you, sweetheart. And he has decided to plead guilty in the said charges against him. Very interesting.
Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, the group that put out a massive amount of sensitive U.S. documents on the internet. Assange has been fighting for extradition to the U.S. for years. Now he's agreed to a plea deal. Our senior national correspondent, Terry Moran, has the latest. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Lindsay. This is a stunning end to a legal and national security saga that's gone on for years. But today, Julian Assange is out of prison and on his way home to Australia. This morning, Julian Assange, who founded WikiLeaks and rocked governments around the world with it, is set to plead guilty in U.S. federal court to a single felony charge in exchange for his freedom, ending the years-long legal saga around his explosive publication of U.S. state secrets. Overnight, Assange left a high-security British prison, a moment that capped months of quiet talks between his lawyers and the Justice Department. The deal that set him free, Assange will plead guilty to one count of conspiring to unlawfully disseminate classified information and avoid further potential prison time in exchange. His plea will be taken in person as required by law at one of the most remote U.S. federal courthouses in Saipan in the Northern Mariana Islands, avoiding setting foot in the continental U.S. and near his native country of Australia. Assange, celebrated by some as a hero, reviled by others as a reckless vandal, published state secrets of country after country, none more damaging than the vast trove of U.S. classified documents WikiLeaks posted online starting in 2010 at the height of U.S. wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
We hope to correct some of that attack on the truth that occurred before the war, during the war, and which has continued on since the war officially concluded.
Nearly 750,000 documents in total were leaked, revealing detailed U.S. military activities and confidential diplomatic cables. Now, Julian Assange is on the verge of freedom, his wife recording a hopeful statement.
This period of our lives, I'm confident now, has come to an end. And I think that by this time next week, Julian will be free.
Assange's family says his health has deteriorated during his years of incarceration. At one point, he faced up to 170 years in prison. Instead, today, for the first time in more than a decade, he is free and going home. Rebecca?
A lot.
All righty. Good Morning America is the source. So should he have been granted a plea deal and freedom? Because what you have to ask yourself, does the one count of pleading guilty to releasing federal information to the public, is it equivalent to the 750,000 documents? Naturally, with 750,000 documents, if you put it multiplied at time 1 year of incarceration, that would be how many lifetimes? 750,000 times 1 year locked up per release of a document. Now, in this commentary, he claims he was wanting to, I guess, rectify information that the government had, whatever they stated in the documents. I haven't done any research on this because this has been many moons ago, but did you ever rectify it? Whatever you thought they did or did not do, the government, what you think they did, said, didn't do, did you ever come forward to rectify what you felt like was said truthfully and not truthfully by the United States government? I'm curious to know that. 750,000 documents released. He only faced one count by U.S. government. He has decided to plead guilty to that one count, and he was facing 170 years incarceration. He is now free and on his way or back now in Australia, his home. Weigh in. What do you think of his freedom? Should he be free? That's the question. Should he be free? The wife has spoken, basically saying, hope to have him home by next week. Stella Assange, don't know how long they've been married. Do they have children? Don't know. Very interesting information. Very interesting. Let's get a little bio on Mr. Julian Assange. Some say he's a villain. Is he a villain? Should he be incarcerated still? Wherever. Because naturally he never wanted to come back on American soil, be apprehended to face the charges of releasing that information. Do you think it was right for him to release that information? You also hear in his commentary his health is failing, but we always hear that, do we not? Every time somebody goes to jail or go to prison, that is the first thing we hear, is that he or she has failing health, but yet they were fine and bubbly before going into penitentiary, jail and penitentiary. Why is that? Because you're worrying yourself. You're making yourself sick, thinking you're possibly going to die in jail, depending on the charges against you. And if you know that you have possibly unalived a person, you probably will worry yourself sick, thinking, I'm never going to get out of here. But if it's intentional homicide, that's where you belong. Now, one could say that's where he belongs pertaining to releasing those documents. He had no right. He didn't have a fight in the information. So was it his job to take this information from someone in the military and then leak it to the public? Did he cause us any type of harm? Some will say yes, no matter what was in the documents. He had no right to receive them and leak them to the public. WikiLeaks. Boy, what is the price for leaking information? Mr. Julian Paul Assange, born July 3rd, 1971. Well, he's same age as Queen. Coming up, he has a birthday in July. Is an Australian editor, publisher, activist who founded WikiLeaks in 2006. He came to international attention in 2010 after WikiLeaks published a series of leaks from U.S. Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning. Footage of a U.S. airstrike in Baghdad, U.S. military logs from the Afghanistan and Iraq wars, and U.S. diplomatic cables. Assange has won multiple awards for publishing and journalism. So did he win these accolades before the leaks or afterwards? Just curious. Or during. Assange was raised in several towns in Australia until his family settled in Melbourne. In his mid-teens, he became involved in the hacker community and was convicted for hacking in 1996. So here you see he has been a busybody before the WikiLeaks scandal. Interesting. I guess one was prelude? Busy bee leads to other busyness, one could say. Following the establishment of WikiLeaks, Assange was its editor when it published the bank Julius Baer documents footage of the 2008 Tibetan unrest, and a report on political killings in Kenya with the Sunday Times. In November 2010, Sweden issued a European arrest warrant for Assange for allegations of sexual assault. After losing his appeal against the warrant, he breached bail and took refuge in the Embassy of Ecuador in London, June 2012. He was granted asylum by Ecuador in August of 2012 on the grounds of political persecution and fears he might be extradited to the United States. He stood for the Australian Senate in 2013 and launched the WikiLeaks party, but failed to win a seat. Swedish prosecutors dropped the investigation in 2019. Why did they drop the investigation? I'm curious. The Swedish prosecutors. On April 11, 2019, Assange's asylum was withdrawn following a series of disputes with Ecuadorian authorities. The police were invited into the embassy and he was arrested. He was found guilty of breaching the Bail Act and sentenced to 50 weeks in prison. The U.S. government unsealed an indictment charging Assange with conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. Okay? So let's go back here. 2019, his asylum was withdrawn, a series of disputes with Ecuadorian authorities. Police were invited into the embassy and he was arrested. He was found guilty of breaching the Bail Act and sentenced to 50 weeks in prison. U.S. government unsealed an indictment charging Assange with conspiracy, commit computer intrusion related to the leaks provided by Manning. In May 2019 and June 2020, the U.S. government unsealed new indictments against Assange, charging him with violating the Espionage Act of 1917 and alleging he had conspired with hackers. Assange was incarcerated in HM Prison Belmarsh in London from April 2019 to June 24 as the United States government extradition efforts was contested in the British courts. June 24, Assange agreed a plea deal with U.S. prosecutors. He will plead guilty to a charge under U.S. Espionage Act of conspiring to obtain and disclose classified U.S. national defense documents in order to avoid potential imprisonment in the U.S. under the terms of the deal. U.S. Justice Department prosecutors will seek a sentence that allows for his immediate release. He has been released from British prison to attend the pleas proceeding. Now, in this Wikipedia, wikipedia.org info, they will tell you about his early life, WikiLeaks, legal issues, Ecuadorian embassy period, indictment and arrest, imprisonment in the UK, hearings on extradition to the U.S., plea bargain release, written works, television show, views, personal life, commentary about Assange, honors and awards, works. He's been busy because not too many people in in Wikipedia have this much underneath their name. So he will be 53. Lived in Townsville, Queensland, Australia. Born there. Townsville, Queensland, Australia. His citizenship in Ecuador and Australia. Known as an editor, publisher, activist. Founding persons for WikiLeaks. Publisher since 2018. Editor-in-chief 2006 to 2018. Considers himself the WikiLeaks party, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean, 2013 to 2015. Spouse is Teresa Assange, 1989, divorced 1999, and the current wife, Stella Assange, married 2022. Very interesting information. What will happen to our Mr. Julian now that he will get freedom? Will he go back into the business of hacking and digging up more personal information on United States government and other parties? Will he become controversial again? Already known as controversial. What will happen now with Mr. Julian Assange? Will he find something more constructive to do with his time? You're entitled to your opinion if you believe what he did was right or wrong. If he had a right to publish that information, the Miss Chelsea that was once a him. Oh, Lord, the plot thickens. Was he right for releasing this public information? Some will call him or her a whistleblower. How do you feel about anyone in the military leaking out private information, whether they feel it's detrimental to the United States government or not, or to the public? Is it right to leak out public military information, whether it's truthful, factual, detrimental to military and or persons and or the public and or other governments. Should a person release military info? I will put that up on a poll as well. Let's go to the Queen's community page pertaining to the decision to free Mr. Julian Assange. Can't wait to see what he's going to do. Once again, he faced 170 years in prison. He released 750,000 documents and has now pled guilty to one count of fraud, I guess. Whatever word you want to use. I don't know. Appropriate terminology for what he's done. And what about Miss Chelsea Manning? Where is she? I'll have to do a little Google search on that as well. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has worked out a plea deal with the U.S. government and now a free man. Should he have been granted freedom? 40% says yes, 30% no, not sure, 0%, don't care, 30%, only 10 votes. Okay. Let me see about this Chelsea Manning because I'm quite curious. Well, somebody says you're happy he's free. Why are you happy that he's free? Enlighten the Queen. Tell me why. Oh, Lordy. Boy, Chelsea looks rough. 36 years of age, born December 17th, 1987. Chelsea was once a man. Oh, God, I can't make this shit up. Chelsea Elizabeth Manning, born Bradley Edward Manning. December 17th, 1987, is an American activist, whistleblower. She was a former United States Army soldier who was convicted by court-martial in July of 2013, violations of the Espionage Act and other offenses after disclosing to WikiLeaks nearly 750,000 classified or unclassified but sensitive military diplomatic documents. She was imprisoned from 2010 until 2017 when her sentence was commuted by President Barack Obama. Very interesting. A trans woman, Manning said in 2013 that she had a female gender identity since childhood and wanted to be known as Chelsea Manning. Wow, Chelsea. I'm going to shut up right there. Criminal charges: violating the Espionage Act, stealing government property, violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, multiple counts of disobeying orders, criminal penalty, 35 years imprisonment, commuted to 7 years total confinement, reduction in rank to private E1 or private, forfeiture of all pay, and allowances, dishonorable discharge. Wow. So Chelsea got a reduction in rank, forfeiture of all pay, and allowances and dishonorable discharge. And that means you won't get any more money from the United States Army. Active 2007 to 2010, confinement 2010 to 17. So you did more time in jail than you actually did as a military person. Was once a private specialist, no longer. Unit, 2nd BCT, 10th Mountain Division, former. Awards: National Defense Service Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, Army Service Ribbon, Overseas Service Ribbon, Iraq Campaign Medal. So you have all these medals. 1, 2, 3, 4. To all forfeit that to give information to a Mr. Julian Assange. Was it worth it? One would have to say. Assigned in 2009 to an Army unit in Iraq as an intelligence analyst, Manning had access to classified databases. In early 2010, she leaked classified information to WikiLeaks and confided this to Adrian Lamo, an online acquaintance. Lamo indirectly informed the Army's Criminal Investigation Command, and Manning was arrested in May 2010. So this is what I'm trying to understand. You confided in this Adrian Lamo, online acquaintance, and then Lamo went and called the Army's Criminal Investigation. So what were you talking about with Lamo anyway to get to the point of divulging anything about the Army or so on and so forth? I'm confused because I didn't never keep up with this nonsense years ago. But what made you contact this person? Was it just an innocent conversation? Or did you seek this person out, or did they seek Miss Manning out? Curious. The material included videos of the July 12, 2007 Baghdad airstrike and the 2009 grenade airstrike in Afghanistan, 251, 287 U.S. diplomatic cables, and 482,832 Army reports that came to be known as the Iraq War Logs and Afghan War Diary. The material was published by WikiLeaks and its media partners between April 2010 and April 2011. Manning was charged with 22 offenses, including aiding the enemy, which was the most serious charge and could have resulted in a death sentence. She was held at the Marine Corps Brig Quantico in Virginia from July 2010 to April 2011 under prevention of injury status, which entailed de facto solitary confinement, other restrictions that caused domestic and international concern before being transferred to the Joint Regional Correctional Facility at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, where she could interact with other detainees. And that's what I was going to say. The prison in Quantico, how was it? What privileges did she have, didn't have? Visitors, commissary, TV, activity out of the cell. What was she allowed? Curious. Okay, now it threw me off. Sorry about that. Let's see. So, left Quantico to end up at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, where she could interact with other detainees. In February 2013, she pleaded guilty to 10 of the charges. The trial on the remaining charges began June 3rd, 2013, and on July 30th, she was convicted of 17 of the original charges and amended versions of 4 others, but acquitted of aiding the enemy. Interesting. One would say, why would you be acquitted on that? Or they don't have proof that she conspired with an opposing government or terrorism group. Maybe that's why. Very interesting. Some would say it doesn't matter. Once you release the information, it was public for any enemy to acquire. Depends on your interpretation. Now, where was I? Sorry about that. Once again, acquitted of aiding the enemy. Convicted of 17 of the original charges and amended versions of 4 others. She was sentenced to 35 years at the maximum security U.S. disciplinary barracks at Fort Leavenworth. January 17, 2017, Obama commuted Manning's sentence to nearly 7 years of confinement dating from her arrest in May 2010. After release, Manning makes her living through speaking engagements. 2018, Manning challenged incumbent Senator Ben Cardin for the Democratic nomination for the United States Senate election in her home state of Maryland. She received 6.1% of the vote. Cardin won renomination with 79.2%. From March 8, 2019 to March 12, 2020, Manning was jailed for contempt and fined $256,000 for refusing to testify before a grand jury investigating WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Isn't that interesting? Manning was jailed for contempt, fined $256,000 for refusing to testify before a grand jury. Boy, you were just a busy little bee. Now you go to speaking engagements. Chelsea, who was once a man, currently 36, born in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, classified document disclosure to WikiLeaks. That's what she is known for. Political party, Democratic. Criminal charges, violating the Espionage Act, stealing government property, violation of the Computer Fraud Abuse Act, multiple counts of disobeying orders. Criminal penalty, 35 years imprisonment, commuted to 7 total confinement. Reduction to rank private, E-1 or private, forfeiture of all pay, allowances, dishonorable discharge. Was once a private specialist. Active from 2007 to 2010. Confined 2010 to 2017. Won the National Defense Service Medal, Global War on Terrorism Medal, Service Ribbon, Overseas Service Ribbon, Iraq campaign. What a hot ass mess. Chelsea Manning, how do you feel now about your friend being free? pleading guilty to one charge. United States government favoring both of you. Both of you've gotten a favor, basically. You can thank the former President Obama gave you freedom. Now imagine it was another president, because many people probably say that. Well, if it was a Republican, he wouldn't have let him out. Possibly wouldn't have. Entitled to your opinion and information. Wow. What a hot butter mess. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $began129 Cash App. Stickers and chats always welcome on the live stream. Thank you. This is a two-part compilation of Mr. Julian Assange, founder of WikiLeaks, is now free. He has made an agreement with the United States government, pled guilty to one charge, and he is now a free man, currently on his way to Australia to live out his final days. Next subject is Roe versus Wade. Thank you very much. WPTV News Palm Beach is the source of this information. It's been 2 years since the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. Was it the right decision? There's still some states that you're allowed to get an abortion and or take the abortion pill. Thank you for your time. Yeah, she's been very busy. Good God Almighty.
Leaving it up to the states to decide whether to restrict access. That was 2 years ago this morning. We're looking at how things Florida have changed since then, bringing in our Brooke Chow. Brooke's been seeking answers, digging into reproductive rights in our state. Yeah, so Brooke, piece together what these last 2 years have been like. What have you found?
Well, we know that it differs from state to state, but it's definitely been a fierce fight here in the state of Florida. Up until 2 years ago, on this day, abortion was legal across the nation for 49 years. So what exactly has changed since then? Well, we know that there are 14 states that got rid of nearly all abortion services. 7 of those states, including us here at home, have restrictions in place limiting the access to an abortion. As I've extensively covered, the state of Florida went from the 15-week ban to the 6-week ban on May 1st. We know that limiting abortion access, of course, prompts more out-of-state travel, and that's certainly the case for us here at home. Just about 3 weeks ago, I was standing right here outside of Planned Parenthood sharing my conversation that I had with them telling me they've had to send dozens and dozens of patients seeking abortion care after 6 weeks out of state to places like Virginia and North Carolina. Now, for the Right to Life anti-abortion organizations and groups here at home right now, they're motivated and they're focused on advocating, voting no on Amendment 4, which is against the constitutional right to an abortion before fetal viability. So again, this is something that's really, really big here. We know the state of Florida and everywhere nationwide, we do have an election, but especially here in Florida, it's important to know that you have the chance to overturn Amendment 4, and that's really what everybody's trying to be talking about right now. 60% of votes to get that approved.
Well, this issue's been a lightning rod here, Brooke. We know 2 years ago, if we rewind here, when this happened, there were a lot of protests, marches across the country. Are we expecting anything similar like that today?
We are. There's expected to be a nationwide women's strike. We also know the Biden campaign is expected to hold more than 50 rallies today across the country. So we'll bring you the latest right here on WPTV.
All right, Brooke Chow continuing her extensive reporting on this issue. Thank you, Brooke. Did a little more research on where abortion law in the Supreme Court is right now. Any day now, the High Court could actually rule on whether a federal law mandating emergency care can override a state ban on that procedure. Now, a ruling from SCOTUS earlier this month protects what might be the most common kind of abortion in the country. It lets the FDA continue its approach by regulating the drug mifepristone. That includes letting those pills be mailed to patients without an in-person doctor's visit. The Guttmacher Institute says the abortion pill accounted for 63% of all abortions just last year. As Brooke mentioned, there were several protests and really protesting the reversal of Roe v. Wade going on today. You can watch our coverage throughout the day. It's free on our WPTV News app.
All right, so 14 states currently have no abortions allowed. We do have a Planned Parenthood clinic that's supposed to be reopening here in Knoxville, Tennessee. I last reported to you guys about a month or so ago. But it will not have any abortions allowed, of course. So how do you also feel about the abortion pill? As you heard, women were able to get the pill without even having a formal medical visit, which some might think that's not a good idea, just to have pills mailed to you. How do you feel about that? Getting them mailed from wherever they're getting the mail from, not having a medical visit, not being seen by a doctor, a medical doctor. Should have been overturned by the Supreme Court. Should have been left alone. Roe versus Wade. It is your choice if you want to have it or not. It was allowed for so many years, 49 years, and then poof, voila, the government decided to get involved in making decisions for a woman's anatomy. And now you hear in this commentary, at least 63% of abortions exacted last year were done by the abortion pill. 63%, that's a nice little amount. Indeed. Indeed. Absolutely. Mrs. Biden, she's rallying for women's rights, reproductive rights, I believe in the state of Pennsylvania. And also Vice President Kamala Harris is out on the trail campaigning for women's reproductive rights. Very interesting information. Let's see what else I can pull up before I check out of here. I'm going to bring you a crazy Your America story, crazy America story. Your crazy America. Possibly tonight or tomorrow. Might wait until tomorrow. Let's see. Now, some states have stipulations, because I read you that information a little while ago. It was a bit lengthy, but I read you every state with or without abortion rights and what they allow as far as rights to get an abortion. A lot of the states have stipulations that you can get it performed if indeed you were sexually assaulted, if indeed it was a child who was sexually assaulted. Each state has his or her own regulations pertaining to the abortion pill and also an actual abortion. Also, if the mother's life is in danger while giving birth, that's another stipulation. But once again, every state does not have that stipulation. You'd have to do your own research to find out which state is allowing the abortion pill, abortions in general, and also the stipulations in order to get an abortion as far as sexual assault on a woman, a child, and pregnancy complications. Let's see what this news has to say here. Texas women denied abortion care, speak out. One of the toughest states for crime punishment, state of Texas.
Bad place in Texas.
The day Lauren Miller learned she was pregnant, she started a journal.
I didn't know it was twins yet.
But at 12 weeks, she learned that one of the twins she was carrying had trisomy 18, a rare chromosomal condition making survival highly unlikely.
You never think that your pregnancy journal is just going to turn into a horror novel.
Because her fetus still had a heartbeat, she couldn't get an abortion under the law in Texas, and she's not alone.
How many of you were told you could not receive an abortion because the baby still had a heartbeat?
All of you. Texas, like more than a dozen other states, moved swiftly to cut off abortion access after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade 2 years ago today in the Dobbs decision. The High Court saying then that it was returning the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. But what's happened in the states since Dobbs? Now a fierce fight heading into November.
Getting it back to the states puts the question where it belongs, with the vote of the people.
Former President Trump taking full credit for getting Roe overturned, but more recently also saying he believes in exceptions in cases of rape, incest, and to save a mother's life.
You have to go with your heart, but you have to also remember you have to get elected.
Rallies across the country today as the Biden campaign tries to draw a direct line.
I find that interesting. Trump would say that to get elected. He makes sure to throw that in at the end. So basically you're saying what? You were going along with the flow, the consensus of the Republican Party. Many Republicans possibly didn't care for abortion. So you just decided, well, I'm running for this party. I'll just go ahead and vote on it. Because basically it sounds like that's what he's saying. Why even throw that in there? You know you got to get elected. I don't think that's a good thing to say. Because that sends the message that you only voted for the abortion to be abortions overturned as to get elected. But am I surprised? No, I'm not. Coming from him, I'm not surprised he would say that.
From Mr. Trump to Dobbs.
Decades of progress shattered just because the last guy got 4 years in the White House.
Highlighting women denied abortions, using ads focused on their stories, and making it a central focus of the re-election campaign. The vice president addressing a crowd today.
In the case of the stealing of reproductive freedom from the women of America, Donald Trump is guilty.
Recent data over the last 2 years showing more women forced to travel for care since Dobbs. Women like Jessica Bernardo, one of a group of women who filed a lawsuit against the state last year with the help of the Center for Reproductive Rights, alleging they were denied abortions in Texas. 5 of them sat down exclusively with Nightly News.
I didn't want to wait for having a seizure or heart or renal failure. There's no coming out back from that. It was just infuriating.
We're not here sounding an alarm about hypothetical scenarios. We're sounding the alarm about what is already happening and what has happened to us.
But not everyone has been able to travel. Samantha Casiano learned at her 20-week scan that her baby had anencephaly and would not survive, but could not afford to leave Texas for an abortion.
It was hard and traumatizing.
Her baby living only 4 hours after birth.
Knowing that your child is going to die and planning your child's funeral before your child's even here is insane.
Amanda Zarowski had the resources to travel, but says she became too sick too fast to leave Texas in time.
I didn't even have that option because my doctors told me you better not be more than 15 minutes away from a hospital. I have to use a surrogate now because of what happened to me. The damage to my reproductive organs is permanent.
The group recently lost their lawsuit to clarify who qualifies for a medical exemption under Texas's abortion ban, and now fear what's still to come.
How many of you are worried that someone is going to die from these laws? If they haven't already.
Yeah.
And Laura, any day now, the Supreme Court is expected to rule on another major abortion case.
Yes, Lester, that's right. It's a dispute about whether hospitals that receive federal funding must perform abortions in medical emergencies, even in states where abortion is banned right now. And a decision in that case is expected by the end of this week or early next, Lester.
All right, Laura Jarrett, thank you. Thanks for watching. Stay updated.
All right, NBC News. Very good information there. So should hospitals be able to give you an emergency abortion even if the state doesn't allow it? Oh, sorry about that. Should it be allowed? Hospitals. Your health is at risk. And as we said, incest, sexual assault. It's been proven. Person wants an abortion. Parent wants an abortion for their child. Should it be allowed even though the law in the state says no? I'm going to put that down as well as another question. Interesting. One second. All right, let's see what else we have here pertaining to abortions in the United States of America. 28 million women living in states with abortion bans. MSNBC is the source.
President and the CEO of Planned Parenthood Action Fund and Planned Parenthood Federation of America, Alexis McGill Johnson, also with us, co-founder and CEO of All In Together, the great Lauren Leader. Thank you both very much for being with me. Alexis, what is Planned Parenthood trying to do to get the word out about exactly what the vice president was talking about, the services that Planned Parenthood brings to the table, but also that abortion is healthcare. Abortion is equal to healthcare, to saving lives. Look, I mean, clearly we know now Planned Parenthood Action Fund just concluded a recent analysis of the impact of the Dobbs decision today. And we know now that 43% of women are living in states with abortion bans. That is 28 million women are living in states, and more gender expansive folks, and more than half of Black women. So when we talk about the fact that abortion is healthcare, abortion is reproductive health care. And we know now that abortion bans have made pregnancy more dangerous. They have put us at more risk for outcomes in our pregnancies, for being criminalized. The idea that that people still yet don't understand, right, on the opposite side of the aisle, that these bans are harming people. They are harming patients, and they are putting at risk the majority of reproductive freedom across this country. And that's what we are, demonstrating right now. What's at stake.
So, Lauren, I just wonder how important you think it is to use wording that is authentic to the problem at hand. Since Roe was overturned, there are women who can't get the health care that they need. Abortion is not a bad word. Abortion is a life-saving word. A DNC and the procedures that one uses when they are miscarrying, they are life-saving procedures. They are, and when you use words like reproductive freedom or freedom over my body, it somehow triggers those on the far right as if it's something that can't be said out loud. It certainly can be said out loud because it's about saving one's life. And whether you're on the far right or you're a moderate Republican, if you're a man or a woman, there's going to be someone you love who needs an abortion in order to live or to not be sterilized or to have a miscarriage in a less traumatizing way so they can have more children. How important is it to spell it out for what it is?
I think it's essential, and you heard the vice president doing that. She's been talking relentlessly about freedom and the freedom to access the basic life-saving care that millions of women need. And as you know, and as we've talked about many times on this show, in the states that have restricted or banned abortion, you've seen huge spikes in maternal mortality because doctors are fleeing those states, because of the crisis of care that it is creating writ large for, a whole range of healthcare services. And that is already on top of a massive maternal health crisis that we were already facing in this country before the Dobbs decision. But I'm so excited to be on with my wonderful, dear, longtime friend, Alexis. And we talk about this all the time, Alexis, but I wanted you to talk a little bit for our viewers about what you think is possible in terms of restoring the protections of abortion rights if President Biden gets the second term. And obviously, we all believe that that's going to be essential for the future of women's health care. But talk about what you expect, the commitments that the administration has made, and what you think they're going to be able to do, in addition to blocking, of course, the terrible consequences that a second Trump term would potentially have for women. What's the upside for the next term in terms of protecting women's health care?
Yeah, absolutely, Lauren. And it's so great to see you almost in real life. I mean, look, we know what a Donald Trump administration would bring us, right? We know that he bragged about the Dobbs decision. He bragged about putting the justices on who would overturn our reproductive freedoms. And essentially what he was saying is that he believed that states should decide. He believed that states should decide who is free and who is equal, right? And we now are living in that reality that, I talked about the 43% of us who are living in those states who no longer have free and equal rights. Now, the upside of a Biden administration is incredibly exciting, right? We have an administration that has been an incredible partner fighting for reproductive freedom, fighting to protect patients, fighting to protect the right to travel, fighting to protect, the right for providers to provide care, and suing states like Idaho for not enforcing laws like EMTALA. So, we know their opportunity here is not just to restore Roe, but to build Roe back better. We need a durable, national, expansive right. We need a federal right. And that is what a collective of reproductive rights and health and justice organizations under the banner of Abortion Access Now are coming together. Just today announced a $100 million strategy to ensure that this administration has the right legislation in front of them to ensure that we have reproductive freedom and that we are not back in this place as we are 2 years after Dobbs.
Yep, President of Planned Parenthood, Alexis McGill Johnson, thank you. And Lauren, we're going to be talking about this all week in the lead up to the debate. We need to have you back, co-founder and CEO of All In Together. Lauren Leader, thank you as well. Come.
Hey there, MSNBC.
MSNBC is the source. So once again, should the Supreme Court have gotten involved to overturn this? Politicians vote to overturn Roe versus Wade. Number one, should it go back to the way it was? Should Planned Parenthood be allowed to administer abortions? Hospitals be allowed to administer abortions? Other clinics allow abortions? And also, the abortion pill, should it be allowed in all 50 states, jurisdictions, United States territories? Should someone else have the right to tell a woman what she can do with her body? As I stated before in commentary I brought to this network about a month or so ago, month and a half to two, I brought you information to states who are allowing abortions and the stipulations. Once again, every state has his or her own stipulations on if you can get it, the circumstances, such as rape, incest, and or complications during pregnancy. And you heard women give their personal commentary in the audio of having some type of complications during pregnancy, getting care, trying to get to the next state to get an abortion. But this is why you have to know your body. You know you're out here having sex without protection. That's common sense. Protection and or even a condom, because a condom can break. And you have to know your body and your cycle. And you have to know the signs that something is not right, such as number one, not getting a cycle and immediately going to get a pregnancy test. That is your only option at this moment. You have to know the ramifications. If you do not use protection and or any form of birth control pill or device, you will get pregnant. That's number one. You get pregnant, you need to try to make sure it's detected early if you decide you do not want to carry the child. And as you heard in this commentary, in certain states, so long as the child has a heartbeat, it is determined to be human life, you cannot have the abortion. So the best thing to do is, one, to protect yourself, as to not become pregnant. That is your right, and that is also your responsibility, because it is also your body. So you know you don't want children, you don't want any more children, then use birth control and or abstain from having sexual contact. You do get pregnant, then you need to know the places that afford you the opportunity to have an abortion, and also being able to get there in time to have it done, because there's also guidelines and stipulations on the time frame for how far long a pregnancy you are in order to get the abortion. That's my said commentary. I will post a few more questions on my community page pertaining to this subject matter. Please take the polls. Feel free to comment below the video. There will also be some shorts on this commentary in the YouTube queue, also pertaining to Mr. Julian Assange. There will be a short uploaded shortly. I thank you all so much for following this network. Thank you for your kind stickers, chats, donations. And once again, the movie of the week is Talk Radio. I may put up a few more suggestions this week just for your entertainment. Thank you so much for listening to this two-part live. Once again, congratulations to the UT Vols baseball team for winning their championship, and also to Mr. Manuel for making it to the Olympic stage for track and field. Thank you. Thank you. God bless all of you young men for your accomplishments in sports at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Once again, two-part live. Julian Assange is now free. He has signed an agreement with the United States government to plead guilty to one charge of fraud, espionage fraud. He'll be free to roam as he sees fit, I guess, in certain jurisdictions, free to go back home to Australia. His wife briefly spoke in this commentary during this live stream by audio. Feel free to go to my community board. The said information is in the YouTube queue and on my community page. And the second part of this live stream is pertaining to Roe versus Wade. It has now been 2 years since it was overturned by the Supreme Court, and certain states don't allow abortions to be given to women and or girls. Certain states do, but naturally there's a criteria and a timeline feel free to go into the Google search to find out that information if indeed you are curious about getting an abortion in your state. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Please stay cool and hydrated. Take care of your skin. Also, be mindful of your pets, as I brought you commentary the other day on Sunday of a couple who left their dogs and a cat inside of a car outside of a hotel in Indianapolis, and the pit bull passed away, and the German Shepherd and cat were taken to the Humane Society. And also, 2 children were left in a hot car last week by a couple outside of Indianapolis, and they were arrested, bonded out, and I'm waiting for information pertaining to their court proceedings that should take place, I believe, tomorrow. So I'll bring you an update pertaining to that said information. You're welcome, Shelley. Thank you for listening. You all have a wonderful week. You have been listening to the Vault XL. Thank you.